Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update on gold and silver. We're going to look at the dollar, the 10-year yield. We're going to go over all the precious metals, some ETFs, some individual companies, and some royalty companies. And I do think some of them look pretty good to move on higher, especially in the royalty sector. That's where I added a little bit. I'll let you know which ones those are, and let's dive in. Again, this is just my financial opinion. Please don't use it as advice, but here's DXY. So we'll start with the dollar. Remember, this is a dollar index. It is indexed against other currencies. The dollar has been, over the past, I'd say month or so, the strongest of the toilet paper currencies. We zoom in on here. We did come into this ascending wedge triangle over the past few months. I'd say over the past month. And we've broken to the downside. So we do have a little bit of downward momentum coming down through here. We'll see where this thing goes next, but I do suspect that it's going to move kind of in a chopping sideways action to potentially lower, which may help a little bit of the commodity sector a little bit. But overall, we're getting inflation everywhere in the world, not just in the dollar. It's everywhere. And in other areas, the inflation is greater than the dollar. So there is more demand for dollars than the other currencies. Looking at the 10-year yield, since we have inflation, usually if we have an inflationary environment, yields want to go up. And we have this inverted head and shoulders pattern that we're trying to break to the upside here. We were up 3.1% today. We're going to zoom in on the right-hand side. We dropped from that scare of, is it Omicron, however you want to say it. And we're coming back up over the past day. Will this stick? We'll find out. We'll see what happens. But the bigger picture is a reverse head and shoulder over the past couple of years. And I'm suspecting that interest rates will eventually go up. Looking at gold. So looking at gold, we're still inside the pattern. Zooming in on the right-hand side of this pattern, we've got this downtrend line that's broken. And we've got a nice support line right at about 1781. We've hit it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. It's providing good support at 1780. I'd like to see this move on up. Silver. Zooming back out. We have this pattern. So we broke this massive pattern. This is a big boy pattern that we broke out of. Massive pattern break. Think of it as this big pattern here. You break out, and sometimes they go sideways for a little bit. This one went sideways for a long time. I don't think it's going to be the same as this with the inflation where it is today. But we broke out of this. We're going to zoom way on in. We've got an inverted head and shoulder pattern. It came up and it broke back down. Broke back down mountain. And looking at this, we still haven't gotten the footing yet where we can turn yet. So I'd be dragging my feet on silver. I don't see it firming up like gold's finding a good firm spot, support at 1781, 1782, somewhere in that range. Silver's still trying to search for that bottom. Platinum's finding a little bit of support. We broke to the downside of this ascending wedge. And whenever you see these ascending wedges, whenever you see a contraction of price, it's contracting to a point, it's going to break. That pressure needs to release, and it released downward. And it usually releases downward on an ascending wedge. And we're doing a return move of a very large pattern here, a massive one. So we're still in this. We came up. We're kind of finding our way. We're still in this return move downward. And then I think you're going to see a big move higher. I did read some supports in the Platinum Council, Platinum Investment Group Council, or whatever it is. We could have a little bit of a surplus in platinum next year, but it's very difficult to project these things. They said that it was going to be a deficit last year in 2022. They said it's now going to be a surplus. They also said that they have unexpected demand in China for platinum. They might be doing substitutions for palladium. Really difficult to say where this fundamental picture is on platinum. What I do is I look at the charts like this. We have the consolidation. We could have this. It could pull back a little bit more, and maybe even get in the 800s if we're lucky. And when I say if we're lucky, it's a time to accumulate. This is a long-term accumulation plan. Because when this thing goes, I think we're going to get a nice, good appreciation out of it, and it's going to be very low-risk bet if you're in the physical platinum metal. Now, looking at palladium, the shortages in palladium are also the shortages in platinum because platinum is a substitute. We had a nice, really good pattern here with low, higher, low, stepping up into the line. It broke out. It back tested. That's that retest return move that we're looking for in platinum right now. It did it in palladium, and then it took off. Absolutely took off to about $3,000, and then it came back. The shortages of chips are impacting palladium because of car manufacturing. This will come back, and it's going to come raging back. We have a shortage of palladium, and we have a shortage in rhodium, and this is going to take some time. We do have kind of a rounding top. It's got lower. So let's back out here real quick. I'm going to throw in a trend line here. We are in a downtrend line. And what you see here is an ascending wedge pattern. We broke to the downside. You can see these large sell-offs here. We had a very large sell-off here in February or March of 2020. And it was trying to fight back. And then another hit on its head right here in June 2021. And then see these candlesticks, these three coming on up right in here. See this big move down and then the three candlesticks. See how these are 3 days moving up for one down day? Much higher selling pressure here. It's struggling to come back. Gets hit on its head again. Big old down day. Big old down day. This is a down weeks. Big down week. And then it contracted. We came up. Another big smackdown here recently. I do think we're going to start finding support at some point here, but we are still in a downtrend for palladium, and I would not be jumping in at the moment on palladium. Now here is Aurora Resources. I'm still watching this guy. Big old pattern here that we're trying to break out of. We zoom in on the right-hand side. We were coming up out of the pattern, and we had a beeline lower with a bunch of news. I think if this thing can find a footing somewhere, I'd be looking at it. And that's KRRGF. But it's first got to find, some support somewhere. EXK, we had the fat reverse inverted head and shoulders. We broke out and we broke back down. Looking over here at the right, we're still trying to find support. We still got some sellers coming through here. The buyers are making their way, kind of came back at the end of this day. So we could see more of a reversal here. This is 2-hour chart. You go to 1 year. This is a day chart. So we do have a hammer candlestick pattern here. That's usually a reversal pattern. I want to see some support right where it's at. We might do a little reversal here on up for EXK. SILJ is doing the same thing. We have this kind of sharp downtrend line. We've got the reverse head and shoulders, and I don't know if this is necessarily broken. Usually they say it's broken when it comes down, but it was broken by a bunch of news, and sometimes news, the chart is still valid. We'll see. But we have a hammer pattern here on the right-hand side of this past trading day. It's kind of hard to see. There it is. That's the hammer pattern right here. This is a hammer pattern yesterday, last trading day, I should say, and a hammer pattern today. This is usually indicative of a reversal. So I think SILJ looks good. I would actually be sprinkling in here. That's what I would be doing. I would be doing the same thing with GDX. We're seeing these wicks on the bottom, and usually when you see wicks on the bottom, that indicates buyers down here. So we are very close to a very large breakout on GDX and SILJ as well. We've got the 1, 2, 3, and usually it either just goes beeline and straight up, or it can pull back even all the way back down to $30. It's potentially could do that, but with the pattern and what it looks like, I would be doing a little bit of sprinkling in there if it were myself. So here's MMNGF. We are coming back to its support line out of a big old pattern. And if you guys want to get, a little sprinkle in there. That's up to you. This is a higher risk company. It's an exploration silver company. I wouldn't put, a large percentage of my portfolio in it, but I would put a little bit, just get a little bit of exposure in case this thing runs. And when it runs, it goes up multiple hundreds of percents possible. Koya is looking like it's struggling. I was hoping that we could stay above this, do a retest and move. It's broken back below. It's still in a downtrend. I would be holding on and not do anything. I would not add any money yet. Discovery Silver, we had a nice, good uptrend line going here. And then we broke the uptrend. We're kind of pulling back a little bit. Let me zoom out a little bit. Oh, wow, that looks scrunched up. So looking, let me see if I can scrunch this back up. I do not know how to, I don't know what I just did there, but let's do this. 1 second, guys. Okay, we're back in. We're in the game now. Close that. So we're coming up in this move here. God, still got that on there. And we've broken out of this uptrend line, and we're coming back still. So this thing is volatilely moving back and forth for Discovery Silver. Looking at AG, long term, this thing looks fantastic. If I can rescale this. You know what, guys? Let me leave this and come right back in. So hold on a second. We were on AG. So here's AG. Looking at it from a 5-year perspective, 1, 2, 3. We're trying to break out to the upside. We broke out of this descending wedge to the upside, and I think we're finding support here. Right now, we've got good wicks on the bottom. I would sprinkle maybe a little bit in if you guys want to. It's up to you. We've got nice big volume here today, and I think it looks good for First Majestic. Newmont's got a descending wedge pattern. We're still inside this pattern. We have a wick at the bottom. It's up to you on what you want to do, but I think Newmont looks decent over here. Nice big projected move higher if it breaks this gigantic pattern. My Lord. Now here's Yamana Gold. Kind of zooming in here, we got a descending wedge pattern. We're still inside that wedge. Looking at the 1 year, we're down here on the right-hand side, little wicks at the bottom. I don't think it looks that bad. And usually this is a bullish engulfing here. We came up, hit our head on resistance, came back, and I think we're going to find support here very soon. I'd be looking at it if you guys like Yamana Gold. Here's Impact Silver. Again, we're coming up. We're kind of coming back. It doesn't look too bad to me. That's a small silver production company. And Aftermath Silver looks like it found some support down here. Again, if you guys want a higher risk play, this is definitely has the risk. So be sparingly use your cash on some of these small silver exploration companies. Now here's Sand. This is a royalty company. I think this one looks pretty good for a long-term bet and sprinkling in here. We're at a long-term support line. We're right there at that support line. We have a descending wedge that we broke to the upside on good buying pressure. And we're coming down with small selling pressure. And I think right here, right now is actually a good spot to be looking. I sprinkled some in here myself. Here's Franco Nevada. This is another one that I bought today. I added in. What gets me fired up is this is a big old pattern here, guys. I like it. It's going to be, I think, a good size move. There's your projected move. Way off the page, well above $200. This is a bigger company. It's not as leveraged as some of the other ones. But when we zoom in here, it's got a nice, good, big bullish engulfing with good volume. I think we're going to go higher, and I think we're going to break this. It's got a nice kind of V-shaped bottom. Looks good to me. I like Franco Nevada. I did buy some. EMX. Looking at EMX, we're right here at support. We're playing with the support line right now. That's what we're doing. We broke out of this big pattern, came up, kind of did a back test, and then shot higher. So that one looks okay. Untitled Resources is also playing with its resistance support line. Its support line, it came below it, popped back above it. It's struggling. We'll see if we can get back above it. Here's another one I purchased, Wheaton Precious Metals. Why did I purchase this one? Big old chart pattern move that could potentially happen here. Let me kind of drag. Oh, didn't grab the right line. Now here's kind of the projected move, somewhere like 69 bucks. We're at 36. We're in another pattern, so we broke this pattern to the upside. We already broke the pattern. It's pulling on back, and we're in the side of this last pattern here. If we zoom in, we have a bullish kind of piercing pattern where it opened lower and the buyer stepped in with some volume and kind of pushed it back up. And we've got a nice good bullish engulfing here. So we hit our head, we came up, and I think we're going to create a low, a higher low, and probably a higher low here. And we're going to try to break through here. And hopefully that's the case. So Franco Nevada was one I looked at and added in, sand, and Wheaton Precious Metals. These are royalty companies. Wheaton Precious Metals is more silver royalty based. Franco Nevada is more gold, copper type based. Here's gold royalty. Looking at gold royalty, looks like it's firming up too. Let's put some lines on this thing. It looks like we're starting to kind of create a pattern here. And I'm starting to see this in a lot of the royalty companies. And right here, you know what? If you like gold royalty company, if this is familiar to you, I'd be sprinkling in. Because when you break these patterns, when this pressure is going to build up, I think it's going to release to the upside. We've got a lot of inflation out in the entire world, not just the United States. So I'm looking at these royalty companies, kind of adding a little bit in. Here's Metallo royalty. Again, we've got this big old pattern that's developed, a big old long trend line. It's coming on down. We do have some selling pressure here, so I'm curious to see which way this thing breaks. You go back to the 1 year, we're dancing on the lower trend line. I want to see this thing pop back up, and I'd buy into that strength if it were me. We're at a breakout point. It's going to go either much higher or lower here, usually to relieve this pressure that's built up here. MMX, this is Mavericks Metals. I don't know if this one had a clear chart or anything. I mean, you can kind of see some resistance there, some support there that it broke. This thing looks like it kind of broke to the downside if you look at it from this perspective. So I don't know if I'd be adding in Mavericks Metals at the moment. Royal Gold, looks like I got this thing all chalked up here. This is a big old pattern, my lord. Kind of a resistance line here. We broke out above it, came back and back tested and then took off. Good old run here. We're still running. We're still moving on up. Let's zoom in on the right-hand side. We've got this downtrend line, support line below it. We have another support line here that failed, came down to the other support. I think we're going to take off here pretty soon if we can get some momentum here. Nice, good hammer candlestick this past day here. So that one looks okay. And then a Cisco Gold Royalties. Big old pattern. Here's a big old resistance line. We tried to break above it. It came back in. And I think it's just a matter of time before these things break to the upside. We're playing with the top line. We're starting to bring our lows up. We're basically on top of this line trying to break through it. I think a Cisco Gold looks really good too. And when you're in these big patterns like this, people are going to look at this and say, it didn't go anywhere for such a long time. When it breaks this line here, it's going to run. I mean, you could see a big old move from this pattern here. And it's one that I'm going to be buying a little bit into and beefing up my own position myself is a Cisco Gold Royalty. And I'm going to be building it up right here. So that's what I'm doing. So that's me sharing it. Again, this is just my financial opinion. I'm sharing what I'm doing. You guys can obviously do what you want to do. But I think that the royalty companies look the best. That's where I would be looking. If you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.